is about getting to those hardwired patterns and rewiring, which is something you have to do to believe. In the first couple of weeks, I made tremendous progress right away. Like the airplane taking off. Wow, like this is great. I feel amazing. Like this is actually working. I couldn't believe it.
Hello, this is Jason from I Can Thrive. I've got one of my clients here, Matt, from the USA. All right, and we're really looking forward to sharing his story now. All right, so let's get straight into it. What was your life like before you became unwell? So what kind of things did you enjoy?
Yeah, before I became unwell, there were always little signs here and there that things weren't quite right with me. So even though I say I'm well, I didn't develop ME/CFS, but I had little issues with my immune system and allergies and things along those lines. But before I got sick, I would say I was a very high achiever. So I was playing competitive club sports in college. I was in an engineering program. So my life was really kind of centered around achievement and very directed in that direction. That's not to say I didn't enjoy my life, but it was very pushing, very hard, very achievement oriented. So.
Okay. And in terms of like activities and things in sports, what kind of things did you enjoy?
Oh, back then I played basketball. I loved to play soccer. I played rugby in college. So, I did it all. So sports was kind of my outlet for me. It was like what I love to do. So played a lot of competitive sports, yeah.
Okay. You've been ill for about 3 years, maybe a little bit more over 3 years. What happened when you first became unwell?
Yeah. Well, March 17th of 2017 was the day I became unwell, and I can remember waking up that morning and feeling like, oh, wow, what is going on here? But leading up to that, I had very severe migraines and headaches following exercise for a long period of time. I would just kind of push through everything and ignore it, even to the point of just feeling unwell, like nauseated and things like that. So there were certain signs that were there, and having concussions certainly didn't help that. But, March 17, 2017, woke up with a sinus infection that never fully went away. And my immune system felt like it was stuck in the on position, kind of in overdrive since then. And yeah, that's the day I remember coming down with this. So.
Okay. And during your worst times of the illness, what did that look like for you? What was your an average day for you at your worst?
It was very rough. I started to have to work remotely in 2018 because I could no longer actually walk to work. Like I was waking up with post-exertional malaise or full body inflammation and severe pain. And I didn't really know at the time what was going on. I didn't know that it was exercise that was even triggering my symptoms. It was until much later. And in terms of like the state I was in at my worst, there were certain days where I didn't have the energy to brush my teeth or to take a shower. And I still managed somehow through the grace of God, I tell you, to keep my job.
Wow.
The same job that I have today. And it's truly a miracle. So that I was able to get through that. But in my worst, because you read about people on the moderate to severe spectrum, I was kind of in the severe, moderate, almost to severe spectrum because I kept pushing and pushing myself over time. So.
Wow, that's intense. Yeah, just being able to brush your teeth on a day. Wow. I remember just about being able to have a shower. That was like a win on some days. And yeah, being bedbound for like a month on end or more. Incredible. And what did that feel like? Like, you went from pretty normal, pretty healthy lifestyle, maybe pushing yourself too much back then, but then suddenly hardly being able to do anything. What was that like for you?
It's really interesting because it's like we kind of, well, some of us with this overachiever pattern have a habit of actually ignoring stuff that's going on deeper down that's maybe troubling us, right? Like spiritual or emotional issues. And I was kind of forced into a very, very long time out, I come from a religious background, and I view it now in retrospect that God gave me that gift to actually have to stop and have to be like, is what I'm doing the best for me? And I can safely look back on that and say, absolutely not. at the time, it was extremely hard to go through without any answers, especially from the being gaslighted by the medical system, as we all have been. And they're like, "There's nothing wrong with you." You're like, "Yes, there is." Like, I can't walk down the street without feeling like I have the flu the next morning. So. But yeah, it was a very challenging time, extremely challenging. Yeah.
And in terms of your symptoms, what were the array of symptoms that you had back then?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because with something like, by the grace of God, I even figured out what was wrong with me. I mean, for something called chronic fatigue syndrome, my primary symptom was not fatigue, which is I had constant brain fog and throbbing headaches, but I didn't have the crushing, debilitating fatigue you hear people actually talking about on the internet. And from your story, I know that you had that as one of your symptoms.
Yeah.
But what was my leading symptom was actually the post-exertional malaise, which is more in line with what's described as ME. So mine was a neuroimmunological presentation affecting my immune system deeply, to the point where even mild exertion was producing inflammation in my body. That if you just imagine like the worst flu you've ever had, imagine that for 3 years. So that was a rough go.
Wow.
And I'm thankful I didn't have the fatigue on top of that, which I've heard from people is just debilitating. So
yeah, I kind of described it as in the past. It felt like I had run a marathon, even though I was doing nothing the day before, and maybe a hangover combined as well. It felt it felt like you were hit by a bus or something every morning, and my goodness. Being able to function again, what an incredible thing to get that gift back. Another question that I have for you is, what kind of patterns do you think were keeping you stuck for so long?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a great video on this actually in your series about the overachiever pattern, which I was looking at and I'm like, yes, check that box out. Because, I think for a lot of us who come down with this illness, there's this belief system that you're never enough, right? No matter what you do or what you achieve or what other people see you do, it's never enough. And there's a healthy degree of like willpower and ambition, but I think that a lot of us take that too far to the point where we just burn out our engine,
Exactly.
And that's what I did. I mean, like I can tell you, like before I became ill, the signs were all there, ignored them all. But in graduate school, it was like staying awake for multiple days at a time and then going to the gym. Now looking back on that, it's like, whoa, pump the brakes, take a breather, go to sleep, right? But at the time, I just didn't. It's something I've had to learn. So
when you started my program, what were the first signs that you got from it in terms of your progress?
Yeah. And to be fair, I had made a significant amount of progress before I had come across you. Specifically related to fixing the gut microbiome was a key component for me. But I had plateaued at around what I thought at the time was 75%. But now what I look back is probably around 60%. Because I thought I was a bit better than I was. And I found your program through Raylan Eagle's YouTube channel because she interviewed you, and I resonated.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's really, really good. I mean, I appreciate what she's doing for the community, and I resonated with you in that video. And I thought this guy would be someone who's good to work with, who's walked this journey before and understands it. And I can tell you that. I mean, I went into your program full throttle, 100% committed. So I was doing, 20 to 30 rounds of the program a day for people watching, which is a lot of work. And I can say even within the first week of doing it, I first noticed headaches started to improve for me, which I was pleasantly surprised by. I'm like, okay, I don't have a throbbing headache every time I sit in front of my computer and I'm trying to do work, which is a great bonus. And then I noticed that my tolerance to exercise has very slowly begun to improve. So going from exercising once every 3 days or once every other day to more frequently and with a bit higher intensity, very gradually over what's roughly been the 2.5 months I've been in the program, but significantly so. And
awesome.
And it's been a significant increase. Probably improved me about 15 to 20% even in just 2 to 3 months.
Awesome. How does that feel?
Well, it feels good to know that I'm on the right track and to know that I'm in it for the long haul. So it feels good to finally understand what's going on with me versus what everyone else thinks is going on with me, right?
Absolutely awesome. All right. What kind of things are you able to enjoy now as well? So what other kind of things can you do now that you weren't able to do before?
I mean, for one thing, I'm actually playing a lot more sports than I was before, because before, when I was around 60%, I'd have to wait for like the perfect day, be like, okay, I'm feeling good enough now to go out and play volleyball or play basketball, because I know what I have coming in the next few days. I know how I feel right now. You know how you gain that intuition about your body when you've had this illness
to regain that.
And you plateau, and you know what you can and can't do. And I've been able to kind of just play sports more often when I actually want to, versus planning everything out, which has been nice. So it's kind of, this momentum will kind of feed on itself for people who do benefit and actually do participate in the program. It's really interesting to see that. Yeah.
Excellent. What kind of things are you looking forward to in your future now as well?
Oh, I mean, I'm looking forward to, I really do want to get into competitive jiu-jitsu. I'm looking forward to doing that.
Cool.
I'm looking forward to following my passions in terms of work. Because I work in machine learning, I want to work in an area focused on the microbiome and healing people's health. Because I understand, I mean, when you lost your health, you realize there's nothing more important in life than that, or very, very, very few things. And you realize it's your most important asset, and you have to do everything you can to protect it. So it's like, if I can be of service to other people in some way, applying the talents I have, that's what I'd love to do.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to a lot. I'm looking forward to traveling a bit more too, because I have family scattered throughout the United States, and I've been here in Southern California for a few minutes now, and I'd like to see them. And yeah, I mean, it's just a wealth of opportunity kind of opened up. So I'm looking forward to the future for sure.
Fantastic. What are some of the biggest things that you've taken away from all of this? So what kind of lessons or things that you've learned along the way?
Oh my God, how much time do you have? I'll be very brief. In terms of the lessons I've learned, wow. I would say that one of them is to have my priorities in place about what really matters and what really doesn't matter. I remember myself actually being sick, watching some of these recovery interviews, and seeing people talking about things like self-love and spirituality, and I'm like, they didn't have this illness. There's no way. Like this is a physical thing. There's no way that someone talking this kind of language actually dealt with what I'm dealing with. It's just not possible. But it's so funny, because being on the other side of it and being on the path to 100% wellness, I mean, it's a lifelong journey, right? I mean, you'll go beyond 100%.
Totally, absolutely.
But being on this path, I can 100% say that they were right. They were absolutely right, you know. And for me, kind of understanding what matters is, you know, loving myself, loving my family, and putting relationships first. And for me, putting my relationship with God first. So it's given me a sense of spirituality I didn't have before I came down with this, and it's been important.
That's incredible. And from that kind of spiritual perspective,
yeah,
like, what would you say that, what would be like the purpose of going through chronic fatigue?
The purpose, I mean, it was, oh man, you're asking very deep questions here. I would, you know, and it's funny, because talk is cheap, right? Like, just saying these things is so cheap. But when you're someone who's been through this disease, this talk isn't cheap, because it's like, it's the real deal. Like, the people who've really been through this, like in the moderate to severe spectrum, this is the real deal. Like, it's hard to imagine something more difficult than overcoming this disease, in my mind. I guess I can't imagine it. I'm sure there is some. But for me, I mean, like, the deepest spiritual lessons I've learned is to love myself and love God, which I didn't do before I came down with this. And there may have not been another way for me to learn that, because I've reflected on this. It's like, did I have to go through this to gain these lessons I've gained? And the answer, I think, is yes. Because I don't know everything, but I don't see another way. Because some of us who come down with this are very stubborn in our ways about how we approach the world and how we model how the world works, and that's what gets us sick sometimes. So
yeah, that type A achiever pattern, it's something that's very useful. I mean, it's incredible. I still have that type A achiever pattern, but it's imbalanced now. It's if I decide to do something, because in the past I wasn't looking after myself, just like what you were saying. I was pushing myself way too hard, burning the candle at both ends, and I was also over helping people. I was always saying yes to everyone. I was being a bit of a perfectionist when I was at work as well. And all those things were creating a huge amount of stress. So how much would you say this illness is actually the stress caused by all of those things?
Well, I will say that, because understandably there is a spectrum, right, of people with ME/CFS. So I'm just giving my opinion on what I've seen. So I think generally people with this illness, it's a neuroimmunological disorder, and people will vary on the spectrum of how neurological it is and how immunologically related it is. But what we all have in common, at least from my perspective, is some degree of autonomic dysfunction or a stuck stress response.
Yes.
And that's something that's very hard to get to, because I can even reflect on myself before I got sick and while I was sick, and like, without even doing a program like this, I wouldn't have known that I had a stuck stress response.
Right.
Because you just don't know, because it's become so normal that you're not even aware that you're stressed out. And you start to actually really invest in a program like yours, and you see, like, I'm actually stressed constantly, like all day. And it's like, it's amazing insight to have and be like, this probably is contributing to my illness to some degree. And I think for everyone with ME/CFS, it is contributing to them being stuck perpetually in the illness state to a significant degree.
Right. And so as you were doing the program, what did it feel like to finally gain control over that so that you could start to relax your body?
I mean, it's been amazing, because in the first couple of weeks, I made tremendous progress right away. Like the airplane taking off. Wow, like this is great. I feel amazing. Like, this is actually working. Couldn't believe it. For me, it's been an ongoing challenge, because I have, and it's so funny because I used to make fun of this word that's triggers. Like people being triggered. But I myself 100% can admit here freely that I have triggers that bring me back to, that at least remind me of what it was like to be sick and bring back that stress response. And for me, the hardwired relationship has been with my computer, of all things, because I work on my computer. And I was so sick, frantically searching for answers on my computer for so long, that sort of response became automatic and Pavlovian and subconscious and autonomic. And so this is the only thing that has helped me with that, and like deeply investing in this. And I think it is, I think there's a reason for that, is because like what you put together and what this program is about getting to those hardwired patterns and rewiring them, which is something you have to do to believe. And I've experienced it. Like, it actually does work.
Awesome. One other question that I have for you is, if someone was thinking about signing up for my program, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, yes. I mean, just do it. I mean, because it's so hard to take that leap of faith sometimes. But what I would say to people is that, because there for a long time, I thought like it was my genius and my intellect that had figured out all these things about getting me well, and in particular, healing my gut was a huge part of that. But ironically enough, if I look back on it, it was following my intuition was actually the thing that got me well. So for someone watching this video, and they're in the illness, like they have ME/CFS, and they have an intuition that this would help them, I strongly encourage you to follow that, because that is the only thing that, and I'm a scientist, but I can tell you, this is a spiritual journey, and it's the only thing that's helped me. So please do. If you do feel that this will help you, I encourage you to try it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Matt. Oh my God. Absolutely incredible. Like the dedication, the work that you put into it, using it to help you. Oh my God, you just like everything you got, you're completely, absolutely deserve. 100%. So well done to you. All
Thank you,
right,
my man.
excellent. Looking forward to meeting you in person at some point in the US, having a beer with you
Absolutely.
and celebrating. Yeah, awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for everyone watching this, if you could do one thing for me, I'd absolutely appreciate it. It would be to share this video, share this interview with your friends, anyone who's overcoming chronic fatigue. And I really want to share this inspiration, letting people know that it is possible, that you can actually heal from it. And even if you've got to a certain level of your health, but you've reached that plateau and you want to get to the next level, I often help people to really blow through that plateau and get to full health. So awesome. I hope you guys enjoy this. I'll be sharing more interviews soon as well. And I'll speak to you later. Okay. Thank you so much, Matt. All right. Have an
Thank you.
awesome day. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Catch you later, man. Bye-bye.